Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another review video here on the channel. Today we are talking about Zen Cho's latest book, Spirits Abroad. Quick disclaimers before we start, I did have a digital review copy of this book. Regardless of where books come from, nobody's paying me to talk about books except my patrons, and all opinions are my own. I will keep this as spoiler-free as you can keep a short story collection. If you want to go into this knowing absolutely nothing, click away now, and I will link the story graph for the book below in case you want to check out any user-generated content warnings. This is a collection of fantasy short stories from UK-based Malaysian author Zen Cho. It originally came out in 2014, but is being re-released this year, at least in the UK, by Titan Books. Zen Cho describes this collection as a series of short stories weaving between the lands of the living and the dead. It is structured in 3 acts. We have Here, which are stories primarily set in Malaysia, There, which are stories set elsewhere, and then we have Elsewhere, which is books set often in these other worlds. If you read the previous one and you're wondering whether you want to pick up this new edition, it does include 9 additional short stories, including the Hugo Award-winning If at First You Don't Succeed, Try Again. I did my research for this one. As I've said multiple times on this channel, I don't read a lot of short story collections, and often when I do, I find that I don't remember much of them. So this time, I made sure that I kept a little diary of all the short stories and my feelings on all of them. I'm not going to go through each one individually, but know that I made an effort this time. I really sat and I wanted to create a review that wouldn't just be me going, I don't know, I vaguely remember this. I'm going to do my best. I do think this is a really great mix of stories. That was my overall feeling, was that they all feel very different from one another. While they do share common themes and ideas, that Malaysian culture, that idea of belonging and where you fit in that culture, and especially if you're away from home or returning home, they still feel very distinct from one another, though there are a couple of stories that are sequels from each other. They can still be read distinctly. You could still read one a day, one a week, and you wouldn't feel lost. I'm losing my train of thought, but distinct stories, lots of variety of kinds of stories, but overall they do feel very cohesive as a collection, which is my personal preference. If I'm given the option, I'd much rather read a short story collection by one author rather than by multiple. If we're talking about cohesion as well, I really liked the structure of Here, There and Everywhere, because a lot of these stories were written at different times and published in different places, and finding a way to bring all of them together is often something that doesn't really work in short story collections. But in this case, because it has that 3-act structure, it makes a lot of sense, it carries you through, and it means that the stories have a connection as well in those little moments. I talked a little bit about these stories having Malaysian identity at their centre. I don't know a huge amount about Malaysia's history, other than having watched some people talk about it in a few different videos and such. But one of the things that I know about Malaysia, it's a very varied culture, and I think that's really interesting to include another layer on top of that, of also having an idea of immigration and returning home and being away from home and that kind of thing, and that mix of identities as well. There's lots of themes around embracing your identity and embracing your culture, but there's also a lot about tradition and where you can push tradition and where that traditional culture maybe isn't as helpful. I thought that the ways in which this book brought in queer identity at a number of points was really poignant, and I think it's a book that really embraced the nuance of that. I've talked about that a lot lately. It's been something I've really been enjoying, is when authors aren't afraid to write things that are a little bit messy and aren't as clear-cut as maybe places on the internet would like them to be. Just because I did the work, and I can tell you, I had some favourite stories in here. One of my favourites was the Hugo Award winner, If at First You Don't Succeed, Try Again. It made me cry. It was a really good read. I also really enjoyed The House of Aunts, which is a vampire story, a really good one. Prudence and the Dragon, I thought that was really good as well. And that has a sequel which is called The Perseverance of Angela's Past Life, also fabulous. So it's interesting, I liked the stories that had a little bit extra added onto them. One of the last things I'll talk about while I'm talking about the positives for this is that I liked the fact that you can kind of see where some of Zen Cho's later works were born from, which is really interesting, and it's one of the reasons I love reading authors' short story collections when they eventually come out. I had the same thing with reading How Long Till Black Future Month. So good. N.K. Jemisin stuff in there. While this book doesn't have those kind of commentary moments that you often see in short story collections of that kind, you can definitely see where things like Sorcerer to the is it Sorcerer to the Crown or Sorcerer to the Throne? But you can see where that book kind of sprang from. And you can also definitely see some of the inspiration and themes that are in Blackwater Sister as well. I personally really enjoy that in a short story collection, so it gets a thumbs up from me. One of the things that I enjoyed perhaps a little bit less, or that made this less of a 5-star read for me, was I didn't love a lot of the endings of the stories. I really enjoyed reading them, but I found myself just feeling a little bit lost towards the end, not necessarily in a not understanding way, but I felt like the thread was still going somewhere and I was not certain about it. That's hard to describe. It was very much more of a feeling than a direct thing I can explain. I think that's possibly because I don't read a lot of short stories. I think it might be like when I started reading novellas and I felt like the endings weren't quite sitting right with me because I'm just not used to that style of writing and the way that you have to end short stories. But I thought I'd mention it in case that's something that you also don't enjoy. Another thing that's possibly that it was author intent, and it's deliberately meant to make me feel this way, but there were a few moments where it felt like the book was presenting something to me like it was a happy thing, and I just kind of felt not happy about it. And again, that may have been intentional. If it was intentional, masterful writing. If it was meant to make me feel happy, didn't succeed. Until I can sit down and have a conversation with Zen Cho about motivations, we'll never know. I think if you really don't get on with short stories, this is not a collection that's going to change your mind. I think if you, like me, are a person who just enjoys single author collections, 2 thumbs up. It's a really great single author collection. If you don't like short stories at all, not going to be the book that magically makes them work for you. Other things to read, if you haven't already read Zen Cho's other stuff and you want to explore these themes more, it's Sorcerer to the Crown. I've got it written down in my notes here. I should have just scrolled down. Sorcerer to the Crown and The True Queen are really great fantasy books. They're often recommended to people who enjoyed Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, but they are somehow, I think, I found them more easy to digest and also more interesting. Sorry to the fans of that book. My actual favourite work of Zen Cho's is Blackwater Sister. I read it, I want to say last year, maybe the year before, and it blew me away. It's such a good book if you haven't already read it. But if you have read those and you're wondering if you should read this collection, my feeling is yes, I think it's a really strong short story collection for those who enjoy them. So if you're either a fan of Zen Cho, a fan of short stories, if you're wanting to read more stories set in Malaysia, this would be a great option for you. Have you read this? Do you have plans to? Did you read the old edition? Are you going to bring it back for the new one? What are your thoughts? Did you read If at First You Don't Succeed, Try Again for the Hugos? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord if you're that way inclined. I would like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked down below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. This is a collection of fantasy short stories, and definitely you can see where... Oh, why can I never remember the name of any book ever?